I'm going to introduce Bergþóra and Joel. We're actually sitting in Bergþóra's studio, where she does all her design work, and it's their office, and then we have the store in another room. So I'm going to welcome them here. Please come, Bergþóra and Joel. They are going to take over my space. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to do this.
Hi there. Hi, Lee and Philip and Ragnar. Thank you so much for offering us to speak here today. We are very honored. I am, as Ragnar said, Bergthora Gudnadottir, and this is my partner and husband, Joel Palsson. And we are the people behind an Icelandic brand called Farmers Market Iceland. We founded this brand 16 years ago in 2005, and we are going to tell you a little bit about our story and brand so far. A little introduction about myself. I am a textile designer. I studied at the Art Academy here in Iceland, but I've been working as a clothing designer ever since I graduated, which was not really my intention. I just kind of got into that industry. But it was probably always meant to be. I learned how to knit when I was 5. I had really, really nice grandmothers. And from there, I started making my own clothes, and probably clothes for my family and friends as well. But I got my really first job in this industry when I was hired by an Icelandic outdoor brand. And you could actually say that it's the Icelandic outdoor brand. It's called 66 Degrees North. And I was designing their clothes for outdoor activities like skiing and hiking. But we were also doing clothes for the police force, rescue teams, workwear for fishermen, rainwear for kids, all sorts of different projects. And I was there for 7 years in total, and I really, really loved it. What I found especially fascinating about designing for the outdoors was that even though there is fashion involved, function always comes first, and practicality, and that's what we are also all about. What I didn't like, however, at these years in around 2000 was that, and that had nothing to do with the company I was working for. It was the globalization of everything. Everything was becoming so sterile and flat and boring, in my opinion. But something comes out of everything, and what came out of this was that I felt the urge to do something that would have a bit more of a local or natural touch to it. And that was actually the beginning of our brand. And yeah, before we speak more about the brand, maybe you will introduce himself.
Okay. Maybe you should start the slideshow.
Give it share. We have to do share, right?
Share screen.
Yeah.
Ragnar has to teach us.
Did you do share screen?
We're not very
no.
technical.
Okay. Let me see here. Share screen. Voila.
Perfect.
Perfect.
En vil ég gera hana full screen eða svona?
Yeah.
Ekki þetta?
Yeah.
Já. Ekki?
Yeah.
Great. Sounds good.
Great. So, yeah, I studied music in Iceland, in Boston. And after returning to Iceland, I worked only in the music business for 10 years. But after 10 years, I was getting a little eager to try new things. I was still young and already played, hundreds of gigs, concerts abroad and home, a lot of studio work, teaching, theater work, and everything you need to do to survive in the music business. And I was also getting more interested in what Bergþóra was doing, her design work, and how the clothing business was working. So the two of us started fascinating about doing a project together and to make our own brand, the dream brand of the future. I really found out my previous work and the hassle being in the music business was actually pretty good preparation for starting up a new business. Like being a freelance musician or artist, this kind of project management every day. It's like making an album. You spend a lot of time working out the concept and composing the music. You put together the perfect band, go to the studio, record and mix the music. You find someone to manufacture the CDs or vinyls, someone to make the artwork. So also have to promote what you're doing. So in many ways, it was not so different from operating a clothing brand, so to speak. Of course, I still work as a musician as well as working in the clothing business. So the main concept of this dream brand was to focus on natural materials, Nordic country romance, and no seasonal collections. And there is no real summer season in Iceland anyway. We wanted to be financially sustainable and work only with nice people, if possible. So all of this has worked out pretty well, actually. So the first 2 or 3 years, it was only the two of us, and we were supporting it financially by doing other work on the side. I would play every music gig I could get and use the income to finance our first production. So we decided to work with our Icelandic and Nordic roots. And our location on the planet is isolated island. And this was our mood board, which I think explains itself. Traditional clothes from Iceland and from our neighbors. And like Andri Snær here before, we got really inspired by our family's history and photo albums. And actually, it looks like my grandparents' photo album looks very similar to Andri Snær's family's albums. Lots of pictures of camping, skiing, hiking, gatherings, and group photos in the wild. And like Andri mentioned, Iceland capital city, the Reykjavik, which is Iceland's only city, is only a little over 100 years old. So there's always this little conflict between country people and the city people. And it barely came out of the Middle Ages, as Andri mentioned, grandparents. So, and pretty much everyone has a sheep growing farmer in their lines of genes, like grandparents or aunts and uncles. So we made this manifesto. We place ourselves at a junction, a place where heritage meets modernity, the national meets the international, and the countryside meets the city. And this is a limitless source of inspiration, I think. And of course, in Iceland, we have lots of sheep.
Yeah, my beautiful friends. Wool was and has been my main materials in the collections that I make, but of course also other natural materials. But in the beginning, we wanted to use Icelandic wool, since it is actually growing in our backyard, you could say. And what is also nice about it is that wool here is a byproduct from the wool industry. So it's, I mean, it's already there.
The food industry.
Yeah, the food industry. Yeah, sorry, food industry. Yeah, and we used to have here a very, very thriving wool industry years ago. But when we started, it was actually struggling. And what was left of the industry here was a yarn mill that is still running. And that is a company that collects the wool from the farmers. They wash it, they dye it, and they make yarn out of it. And then there were a couple of knitting factories, but all weaving was gone. So what we did at the beginning, because we were fantasizing about this wonderful brand of ours, that before going full-time into using Icelandic wool, we got to meet the owners of the yarn mill just to make sure that they could provide us with yarn for our collection. And they told us that they were on the border of closing down, but of course they were very happy to have new clients and someone enthusiastic to use their material. And so I designed a small knitwear collection in Icelandic wool, and that became very, very popular and sold very well, and which meant that we could continue to expand our collection and grow, even though we do that very slowly. This, for example, is a coat that I made years ago, and this is made out of Icelandic wool, and it is made 100% here in Iceland in a small knitting factory, and which has a sewing facility. And I've been trying to take this coat out of the collection for a long time, but this is such a good project for them, and it's still selling well, so I tend to keep it a little bit longer. And we even made some trials with Icelandic wool tweed that hadn't been done here for years. And now actually we are working on a very interesting project with this yarn mill. They are doing experiments, which I find fascinating. They are using leftover wool, that is the wool that doesn't qualify into the yarn. And they are making a kind of a fur fabric out of it. So our first items with this fabric will be introduced shortly, and we are very looking forward to that. I'm also very happy to say that this company, the yarn mill, is doing very well today. So only 16 years later. But now a little bit about the business side. We never understood the phrase, "It's only business, nothing personal." When what you do for work occupies almost all of your time, things have to be both personal and pleasant, in our opinion. It is very important to us to work with people that we like and inspire us, and that includes our staff, people in our production, people at the bank, and our retailers. Among those creative and inspiring people we work with is our photographer, Ari Mag, whom we have been working with from the start, or almost from the start, and his partner and wife, Auður Caritas. Actually, you can see a few of his pictures here behind us. We have become very, very close friends, and we have a lot of fun when we are planning our photo shoots, as well as on set. And we don't have to explain anything to them because they just know us. And then, on more personal note, since we are a couple, we made one rule when we started this project of ours, because we tend to speak a lot about our work. When we're making dinner or folding the laundry or whatever we are doing, we're always talking about work. So we made one rule. And that is, when your feet no longer touches the floor, when you're going into bed, you stop talking about it, and you don't start again until you've had your first coffee in the morning. And this has worked out pretty well for us. We're going to show you a few of Ari's pictures for us. Everything is pretty personal, as I said. And this, we've been kind of known for our group photos. We want to show kind of a whole family wearing our stuff. And for example, on this picture, you can see my niece, our son, one staff member from one of the retailers, my sister-in-law, Joel's friend and trumpet player, our photographer's wife, one of our staff member, Ragnar's brother-in-law, piano player, and two of our friends. So everything is personal. And this is actually the place where Ragnar's father grew up. And there is her sister and her brother-in-law. More group photos.
Gatherings, musicians, dancer, actor, and the niece again.
And we also wanted to have the feeling of our photos that it would kind of be a gathering that you want to be part of. And we've had a lot of comments regarding that. Yeah, this shows a bit of our collection. We do a lot in knits. This is alpaca sweater, for example, on the left with a cotton waxed jacket. And then on the right, there's more alpaca and wool and corduroy. And some shelter from our forces that can be hard. More waxed jackets, sorry. And as you probably can see, both out of maybe my collection and also our photographs, nature is my main muse of inspiration. And then I'm fascinated with undyed wool because it's unbelievable how many shades you can have with only the whitish and brownish and grayish tones of the wool. And this is Icelandic wool, undyed as well. An Icelandic cowboy. And here we have a merino underwear collection that I designed many years ago. It's actually woolen underwear can literally save lives here. And we use it both during summer and winter. And I wanted to do something that was a little bit more maybe sexy. And this has been very successful. And we heard recently from a mountaineer friend of ours that within that community, this collection has a nickname. In Icelandic, it says, "Taktu mig í hlöðunni," which is "take me in the barn." I wonder why.
This is Ragnar's brother-in-law, by the way, but not her sister.
And then we use mohair and linen. Wool, wool, wool. And some other pictures. And we use our, what we like to do in life, we use that as an inspiration. We do a lot of hiking. And 2 years ago, we actually went on a fly fishing trip. And that was the inspiration for the picture on the right. Here we are.
Here we are now. This is our flagship store. This is where we are sitting on the left. It's the design studio, and then we have our warehouse in the other end. It's an old fish factory, and this is when we came here first in this neighborhood. When we started, there was pretty much only fish factories here, or fish industry businesses. So, but now this is a really trendy area with the restaurants and shops and art galleries. And no one asks us anymore, why on earth are you here?
Mm.
So this store is quite busy, actually. Yeah, this is inside the store. Yeah, 4 years ago, then we opened up our second store. It's on the main shopping street of Reykjavik. We call the stores Farmers and Friends because in addition to our own brand, we have brands from our friends like jewelry makers and clothing brands, and music. So that's why it's Farmers and Friends. Yeah, our lovely staff in the store. It's actually a couple of years old picture, but we have been very lucky with our staff. And we don't really have to advertise for openings.
Yeah, Ragnar asked me to talk a little bit about our reaction through this period of pandemic. When it hit us, we were very glad to be small, resilient, and financially sustainable. The thought about having to lay off some of our wonderful staff that you saw in the picture earlier was the most terrible thing I could think of. So we basically calculated for how many months we could survive without income. And here we are today. We didn't have to lay off anyone, and I'm so thankful for that. And we've been very busy, plus our web store has really kicked off. There I am on the left side with a day's work in my warehouse where I was packing online orders in December. And on the right side, you can see that we use every man on deck. It's actually our sons and my brother-in-law and Joel and me.
So this is December. It's not every day like this.
No. Yeah, I think that's it about us.
I think we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bergþóra and Joel. This is a little bit funny when we are doing it like in person. So I lost my mouse. Stop sharing. I'm trying to. Yeah.
There's a question.
There's a question. Yes.
Which is interesting from Monica Jakubiak.
Yeah.
Question to farmers market: is all your wool from Iceland? If not, how do you transport it, and do you pay fair money for it? Can you trace important wool, etc., to the shepherd? So they want to know about your knowledge of the wool.
Yeah. Well, we don't only use Icelandic wool. Icelandic wool is very different from other kinds of wool. If you know about it, it's rougher, so it's very good for outerwear or what you would put on top of something else.
Right.
So but we use all kinds of wool, merino, mohair, and we know all of our suppliers. Of course, it's I mean, we only use suppliers that we can trace the materials from.
Mm.
And what has been so nice over the years since we started is that in the beginning, it was so difficult to find really nice natural material suppliers.
Mm.
And if we did, it was always a very, very small part of the collection that we wanted to use. Yeah. But today, the demand is so much for these kind of fabrics, thankfully, that it's so much easier. So yeah, actually, everyone we work with, we choose them with a lot of care.
Thank you. Brilliant story.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. And thank you again for hosting us here. And I don't know if the audience realizes how special it is to have such a clothing brand in a country like Iceland. We are so isolated here in the middle of nowhere, in a way, not isolated, but we have so limited resources. There is this one knitwear factory Bergthora mentioned, there is this one mill Bergthora mentioned, and there is hardly any manufacturing facilities, so everything needs to be imported, and then we need to, so it is really something to build up a company like they did. So I am so fond of them, I have to say. But the next